Coach Natalie, and welcome to another episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies. Today we're going to be covering the Americana, also called the V-Lock. Now, the Americana got its name after an American wrestler by the name of Bob Anderson, who went to Brazil in 1978. He was supposed to have met with the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu team, but there was some kind of goof, and so in the end he ended up getting some training with Holst Gracie, who was a member of the famous Gracie family. Bob showed Holst this arm lock that he had developed, and as a result, Holst called it the Americana, in honor of the American that who had taught it to him. In any case, we're going to learn the Americana from side control and mount. I'll demonstrate the side control one first. Again, now arm bars in general are one of the top three submissions used in cage fighting. The rear naked choke is the other one, and the triangle is the other one. The good thing about this kind of submission, it can be used in both gi or no gi. So let's break it down. Okay, so let's just assume you have your dummy, this is Sally, my dummy, or your human training partner. The first thing you want to do in any kind of submission is that you need to control your partner. If they're on the bottom, they often will think that they are being set up to be submitted or joint locked or choked out in some way, and so they are going to want to escape. So the very first thing you want to do is control your partner. If I'm in side control, I often want to do this. I want to apply weight to my partner. I also want to obscure their vision. In this case, I'm looking towards my dummy's feet. Now, all they're doing is they can see the back of my head, my back. They don't know what I'm going to do. Probably up to no good, but they're not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. Next thing I'm going to do, if they are framing me, because that's very common, they want to frame me, push me away, that kind of thing. Especially if your partner is really strong, you're going to have to force this arm to the floor. So I'm going to do it like this. Grab the wrist, grab the elbow, put my forehead on their forearm, and using my toes, getting on my toes, using my whole body, push this arm to the floor. Now they're starting to think, I'm going to be submitted in an Americana. Yes, you are, hopefully. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my forearm, between their head and their wrist. It's a kind of a 90-degree angle. It provides some stability here. If this is also a ground and pound situation, let's say you're holding someone down in a street fight, waiting for help to arrive, they may be swinging. So I want to keep my head below or near my shoulder. If my head's up high, they can hit me in the jaw, knock me out. I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to keep my head low. So, applying control, protecting my consciousness, protecting my jawline here. I'm going to hold onto their wrist with what we call a C-clamp. Don't want to do this. This isn't as strong as all 5 digits working together. Next thing, swim this arm underneath their arm and attach my own wrist. We call this a figure 4 lock. Last thing I'm going to do is start to turn their wrist outwards. Then keeping their wrist on the floor, start to bring their elbow down as close as I can to their rib before they tap. Again. Trying to control my partner, inside control. My torso's on their torso, applying some weight. There, I'm obscuring their vision. If they got their arm, on my collarbone, trying to frame, hand, forehead to their forearm, using my whole body, push their arm to the floor. Now, C-clamp. Swim the arm underneath. Connect to my own wrist in a figure 4 grip. Start to push their wrist out to the side. Now, keeping their wrist on the floor, start to bring their elbow down to their rib as low as they can. Start to raise up the elbow, and at a certain point they're going to tap. Now, some mistakes that people will make in the Americana, like I said in other submissions, is a failure to control someone. In this case, the person on the top usually wants to be as close to the person on the bottom as possible. The person on the bottom, conversely, wants to create as much space. So, I don't want to be doing an Americana like this. Too much space. They can escape. I really want to have my chest close to their chest. Second, as I was mentioning, you don't want to separate your thumb from your other digits as much as possible. Now, the way for them to escape out of the Americana is to extend their arm out. And I would rather have 5 digits holding their arm here than 4 fingers and a thumb separate. So a C-clamp wherever possible. Same for the figure 4 grip. 1 C-clamp on top of another C-clamp. The final thing is not getting the elbow as close to the rib as possible. Now, you could try to do an Americana here, but it's not going to be nearly as effective as if you can get your partner's elbow to the ribs. Now, Sally here has limited flexibility, so which brings up another point. Whenever you're doing submissions, chokes of any sort, we all have different flexibilities. It would be best to start the choke very loosely and very slowly to tighten up. To do an Americana very loosely and then very slowly to tighten. A Kimura. Whatever you're doing, don't apply it quickly. You have to give your partner time to recognize that they are in danger and that they might want to tap. That's the one good thing about Jiu Jitsu, unlike the other fighting sports, is that you're gradually putting them into danger and you're giving them time to think about the mistakes that they've made in their lives. Hopefully with enough time to tap before they injure themselves. So again, be heavy, obscure their vision. If they're framing you, you need to secure the wrist, secure the elbow, forehead to forearm, push. Don't hesitate to use your whole body to push that arm down onto the floor, especially if they're a much bigger, stronger person. Hand in a seat clamp. Start to move the wrist out. This is not important, but it adds to the speed at which they'll tap. Kind of like a motorcycle. This is what we're doing. We're turning the wrist outwards. So, if you want to do it, that's fine. Just makes it a little quicker. Swim under and over. And then start to keep the back of their hand on the ground. Start to move their elbow as close to the rib, and at a certain point they're going to tap. Okay, seen from another angle. This is where you're going to really see the active toes. Like I said, you may be trying to hold down someone who outweighs you by 100 pounds. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but you are definitely going to have to use whatever your weight is against their weight. So, again, maintaining weight, obscuring their vision. If they're trying to push away, secure your forehead to their forearm. Like I said, you can see my toes. I'm on what they call active toes. I'm not just pushing their arm down with my arms, but if I'm using my whole body to push down their arms, I might have a fighting chance. Again, C clamp, turn the wrist outwards, swim under and over, and start to turn. Now, we can do this from the mount. I personally don't like the mount as much as I like side control because I like stability. You need to be able to control people before you submit them. When I'm on the ground, I'm pretty stable. I'm not going anywhere. If I'm on the mount, they can buck me off. That'll be a different lesson. We're going to learn the UPA, escape, and that kind of thing. That being said, we can still make some adjustments to make the mount as stable as possible. Again, let's just assume I want to get this arm down to the ground, and Sally here is throwing haymakers. If I get hit in the jaw, I could easily get knocked out, so we want to avoid that. So I'm going to keep my head on the other side of my shoulder here to protect my consciousness. You can hit the top of my head, but I'm not too worried about that. Secure into a figure 4 grip. Turn the wrist out. Start to bring the elbow down. Now in this case, we're going to keep the mount, but as we start to move the elbow to her ribs, we're going to start to also sprawl our hips. So we're not going to just be like this. We'll start to turn our whole body as well too. Again. Just throwing some haymakers. Gotta protect myself. Keep my head down. Figure 4 grip. Turn the wrist. Keep the back of her hand to the floor. Start to bring her elbow to her rib. And tap. Well, thank you for this opportunity for me to teach you the Americana. I'll be doing other submissions from the mount, but Americana is just, the good thing about the Americana is that you learn the concept of the key, the figure 4 grip. Today we're learning the Americana, but there's something also called the Kimura, which is it's almost just kind of the sister submission to the Americana is the Kimura. It works pretty similar. The concepts of controlling your partner, or opponent before you submit them. The idea of staying safe, especially if it's a self-defense situation. Thank you for joining me for this another episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies. Again, I'm Coach Natalie. I encourage you to join me on the Natalie Whitson Jiu Jitsu page on Facebook. And thank you very much for joining me for Jiu Jitsu for Dummies.